Hello and welcome to the Paranormal TV podcast, the podcast that asks the question, who is Mary and why does she love Dick?
Oh my god.
I am Sean Clark Wilkinson and I am joined as I am every week by my beautiful co-host Chloe Parr. Chloe, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Really good, thank you.
Very good.
What were your thoughts on the opener?
Oh, it was cracking. I'd give it 7 out of 10 this week, but it was a good one.
7 out of 10.
It made me laugh.
Do you get the reference?
I do, yes. But I just...
Okay. I didn't know if you were going to or not. For context, for anyone listening who might not get the reference, that is in reference to one of the most renowned clips from, I think, most paranormal investigation shows that have ever existed, from an episode of Most Haunted. We'll have to watch that episode at some point soon. When Derek Acora, famed psychic medium, channeled a ghost, and for whatever reason, in his possessed state, shouted the phrase, "Mary loves Dick," in his Scouse accent.
I feel like everyone has seen that episode. Even if you're not fans of Most Haunted, I feel like it went viral.
I do feel like it's like a viral meme video that sometimes gets shared
Absolutely
on like
did.
Lad Bible and stuff like that.
Brilliant.
So this is the Paranormal TV podcast. We watch paranormal investigation shows, we dissect them, we debate them, and we discuss them. What are we discussing this week? I'm gonna throw it over to you, Chloe. Do you remember what we're discussing this week? Because yesterday you messaged me asking what we were discussing this week, and you got it wrong.
And I was on the right season. I was just on the wrong episode. So
You weren't on the right season.
Oh no, I was on the wrong season and the wrong episode. But I had the right numbers, just the wrong way around.
Yeah, we could have come. Had you not checked that, we could have come into today being like, ready to record? Yeah, sure, let's go. And then just wait. What are you talking about?
Literally, I actually just even need to double check what the correct episode was before I even I've got it now. So we are discussing season 1, episode 3 of Destination Fear, Sweet Springs Sanitorium, which was a very interesting watch, actually. Very gripping. And it was, I don't know what I expected. I'll be honest. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
I will say, on the topic of Destination Fear, as a whole, it is overall one of my favourite paranormal investigation shows. I actually wrote down here, it was my first note, I wrote down the opening kind of monologue that Dakota does at the start of the episode. So the team are Dakota, his sister Chelsea, his best friend Tanner, and their other friend Alex, who is like the videographer, the guy who videos it. And this is what Dakota says, that the whole point of this this experiment is, this TV program is, it's a psychological experiment to see how terror affects the human mind, what it reveals about our true selves, and just how much of it a person can withstand. To understand the paranormal, first we need to overcome our fears.
I've made note of that as well, because I found when that was said, I was like, these people are actually on something here.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just them trying to make a paranormal investigators bog standard show. They're trying to push the boat out and say, actually, is it fear or is it paranormal?
Yeah, because that's something that, coming, like, speaking as a skeptic, something that we talk about a lot is, when it comes to the paranormal, most of the time it's kind of psychological. It can be, pareidolia or hallucinations or, just straight up psychosis or whatever. And so, the question is it fear fueled mental illness rather than, an actual ghost? and you compare this, even just the format of this compared to last week's episode. I know by the time people are listening to this, they'll know my thoughts on last week's episode. I fucking hated it. As you know, it was far too cinematic. It felt very scripted. It just felt so overproduced. And actually, my second note here is I love that there isn't a big overproduced team with them. Mm-hmm. It's just the four of them and their handheld cameras. It's very intimate. And it feels a lot more real. It feels like a proper documentary style paranormal investigation show.
Yeah, I mean, they had good quality cameras as well for a small group, and I thought, and they replayed every single thing that came up. There wasn't that happened, but anything they caught, they showed on the show as evidence, which a lot of these programs haven't been doing as we've been watching. And you think, well, if you found something and you want to prove to people that this place is paranormal, then why aren't you displaying it on your program? Because people are watching these shows because they have an interest or want to be proven wrong about the paranormal. So why are you not doing your utmost to do that? But this program definitely is, and I think it's brilliant.
I think sometimes with that, a lot of paranormal shows, obviously they want to keep the viewers coming, and as far as they're concerned, as long as you can make the audience believe that things are paranormal, then the audience will keep coming back. So sometimes that might mean saying, we saw this, we think it's this, and we're not gonna show you the evidence, kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas with this show, it is just raw. We saw this, we think it's this. Here is it slowed down, here is it enhanced, here is it zoomed in, here is it, so you can see it better and make up your own mind. So I appreciate that this show caters to everyone, the believers and the skeptics. We could make, well, we couldn't because there aren't enough episodes, but we could make an entire podcast just on Destination Fear. We would run out after 30 or so episodes or whatever. But
no, I agree, because there's stuff to talk about with that makes actual sense and evidence, because it's all raw. It's just so raw that you think they couldn't have forged that, they couldn't have faked it. So shall we talk about where they went in general and the history?
Let's talk about it. Go on.
So they visited an abandoned hotel in Sanatorium. Now, this was obviously Sweet Springs. The ground in which this was built was home to Native Americans, tribes who were slaughtered for the land. Was it by the who were the Indians murdered by? I can't remember now.
Colonizers.
That was it. Yeah, because they wanted the land.
It was the Christopher Columbus crew. Went in, came across from Europe and were like, oh, we know you live here, but we want to live here. So it's disgusting, but
that was it. It was a big war. But then obviously now on the land there is 100 unmarked graves from this war that went on so many years ago. So obviously this place has been built already on top of haunted grounds where a lot of murder and slaughtering took place. But then on top of that, a lot went on inside the sanatorium. So there were slaves who slept in the basement and were kept in jail. And they said one slave did die in the jail. And there was a woman who had her arm ripped off by was it a machine?
Yes, I want to say yes.
Yes, I've put machine, but I wasn't sure. But so already this place has had and seen so many traumatic things that it makes absolute sense that this is horrific. And the energy from there must have been awful going in, because wow. And they had a lot of people obviously on the show talking about there being footsteps in the hallways, lights coming on, and just the general feel of the place for people who obviously were admin workers who went to the property. So it was quite interesting. Before you watched it, you had the view of other people.
One thing I did write, just when they were talking to the different people that have worked there, they talked to the maintenance man.
Yeah.
And he said he once felt a firm hand on his shoulder, and I heard that, and I was like, boom, skeptic hat on, skeptic hat straight on. And as you've already said, people have been talking about this, the whole feel of this building, the history of the building lends itself to kind of like haunted stories. If you are alone in there, and when the building is revealed, it looks haunted, doesn't it? It looks like the kind of building
intimidating.
Draw a haunted building for me, and someone would draw that building. He said when he's in there on his own, he sometimes feels a firm hand on his shoulder. Now, when you're in that kind of situation where you are in a place where in the back of your mind you're like, this is a scary looking building, there is history here of, gruesome deaths, horrible, slave labor, murder, genocide, that kind of like haunted storybook is going to be in the back of your mind at all times. So if something as normal as a muscle spasm was to happen, which do happen, they are real things that happen to the human body. When you're alone in a building like that, if a muscle spasm was to happen, then that might feel like someone has grabbed your shoulder or poked you in the back or touched your arm or whatever. So just that's when the man was like, oh yeah, quite often you can be touched on the shoulder. My skeptic hat went straight on, was like, well, that's also a possibility.
Yeah. And again,
he could have been grabbed by a ghost.
With your skeptic hat, though, again, this is like we talked on the last podcast. When someone tells you something's happened, you can't prove it because you've not seen it.
That's it.
You
it's
need
anecdotal.
to see evidence of this, because they also said that they heard dragging of chains. And what you were talking about is they were talking about the 3rd floor and the specific room, which is 3007, which we'll touch on during the episode. Where there's been sightings of a woman in the window, which again, that would have fueled his whole, I've been touched by this woman. Yeah. But the other thing that I found quite interesting was when they said that anyone who's bought the property has died. But they never went into any more information about who it was that purchased it. I think obviously for, they can't reveal the names of these people. But nobody has purchased this building. It is currently not owned by anyone. It might be now, but when it was filmed, it wasn't. And everyone who had bought it had died mysteriously.
Yeah, I actually, it's weird that you say this, because I saw, I think it was on Instagram the other day. I think it was one of the team, because I do follow these guys on social media, had said, when are you going, someone had messaged them and said something about when are you going back to Sweet Springs, and they said basically they don't know what the sort of future of Sweet Springs is because there is no current owner.
Yeah.
So they're waiting to find out to see if someone buys it out, and they're hopeful that someone does, because obviously it would be really sad if it closes down for good, and you can't go back to that building again for paranormal investigations, or even just for the history of it, for everything it went through. Last thing you want is for it to just be bulldozed and become nothing.
Yeah, because they'd done a lot of research before they arrived, hadn't they, about what people had seen and experienced there, so they knew where in the building to go to, which I thought was good. But again, I thought you've already put in your mind these things.
Yeah, that's like the one thing I wrote down here. I was like, I'm not a huge fan of the reading of the packet. They call it the packet read. And I put, not a fan of this part as a skeptic. Telling them everything about the property will increase the likelihood of the power of suggestion.
Yeah.
So, if you're going into a building expecting there to be the ghost of a woman, if you hear a cat, for instance, then the chances are your mind will tell you it's the woman. Or if you hear like a pigeon or something, it might sound like the distant cry of a woman. So that's one thing I did. I was a bit like, why Why are you doing that?
Yeah, well, I even wrote, you've made a mistake already. You've already read about everything that you want to experience. So
Yeah.
even I sort of thought, because I said to you on the last podcast that if I went somewhere to investigate, I would want to know nothing about the place, so that if I experience something, it's raw and it's all things that I've just done off my own back and found while we're there, not something I've read about and imagined.
Yeah, well, this is these are all little ideas for a cool future venture that we might be able to do, where we create our own little paranormal investigation show, where me and you go, the believer and the skeptic. We know nothing about where we're going, and we just go and do, some investigating.
Which is, I think, the right way to do it, because no one can say it's fake, because if you experience something, you experience something. So...
that's copyrighted, by the way. No one can steal that.
It's ours. So, they then started pretty much straight away. There was no messing about. They just went straight for it. They split up into twos, and 2 of them went to the basement, and 2 of them went to the second floor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just thought, okay, we're off. So, the basement. Now, there was a loud thump from above the second floor, which is the 3rd floor, which is where they say this woman has been seen.
Yep.
And the unexplained crash.
Yeah.
That made me jump, because I rewound it a couple of times thinking, where did that come from? Because they kept saying that they thought there was a figure at the end of the corridor.
Mm-hmm.
And that crash, genuinely, you could see on their faces that they absolutely shit themselves.
No, yeah, they did. And this is another thing I like about Destination Fear, is that all of their reactions are genuine. They're either genuine or they are phenomenal actors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I completely agree with you that all of their reactions throughout this entire episode are genuine. I'm not even going to bring... Well, I'm going to bring it up now, but the fact that I'm not allowed to say anything is fake, I can guarantee throughout this entire episode, that is not even on the table for me. There's nowhere near any of that for me.
No. Because the crash... What I found really bizarre about that was it was a crash that happened, but nobody could pinpoint where on earth that sound came from. Yeah. It was clearly a crash because it made the camera rattle. Yeah. And it made them jump.
And actually, when they showed the split screen, you heard it from the basement and from the second floor.
Yeah, so you could see that it happened.
It was loud.
Yeah, because
it happened at the same time.
Do they think it came from the 3rd floor? This crash, or was it on the floor they were on?
I can't remember if they did, but it was then shortly afterwards they went.
Yeah, they went up
to the third floor, didn't they? Because then they ended up outside 3008, whatever the room was.
3007.
3007.
And nothing happened the first time, and they even said nothing's happened, which I was quite happy to see, because I thought on other programs they'd have been like, what's that? Oh, and it would have been a whole farce of making up something or making themselves believe something was happening when it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then they swapped over.
Yeah, can I just say before we move on?
Yep.
To when they swapped over, there was a moment when Dakota and Chelsea were walking past a mirror, and this mirror, and Dakota pointed out, this is the mirror that quite a lot of people see faces in. He shone the camera at the mirror, and this mirror, Chloe, was filthy. It had handprints all over it. It had fingerprints. It had muck. It had dust. It had everything that you could think on the surface of this mirror. And so one thing I would just like to point out again, I'm going to bring out the P word, as I quite often do, pareidolia. If you're seeing faces in that, it's because it hasn't had a good clean in a long time. And, 2 fingerprints and a smudge might look like 2 eyes and a smile.
Yeah. I didn't even make note of the mirror.
Yeah. It was something that I just noticed because he was like one of the sort of popular claims in this building is that they see faces in this mirror. So I was like, again, as a skeptic, as soon as you hear a claim like that, you've got to put your skeptic hat on and go, well then let's have a look at the environment. And the environment is a dirty old mirror.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I rewound that, and because I wanted to see if there was something in there that could be seen, and there wasn't. I didn't even write it down because I thought mirrors do put the creeps in people, because
Yeah.
you know, if you're looking for something scary, you're thinking, I'm going to look in the mirror, then someone's going to appear behind me, because in every single horror film that's what happens. So in your head you've already made up that, oh, there's a face, but there isn't.
Yeah.
It's something that I think it's your paranoid mind can take you there, really.
It's well, one of the reasons breaking a mirror is bad luck is because in ancient times people believed it. You know, if you looked in the mirror would take part of your soul. Mirrors have in history been paranormal devices almost. Have been thought to have been some kind of paranormal. People think they're portals to, you know, another realm.
Yeah.
And like ghosts can come through them. But I mean, obviously I'm not a person that subscribes to that, but just
there's a horror film about that called Mirrors. There is actually a horror film called about that, but
yeah,
no,
exactly.
I don't think you can transport through a mirror. I'll be honest. I don't know. I mean, there's that whole thing where there was a trend.
You thought about it.
I'm going off topic now. There was a trend that people were like, it's actually going around the internet now. They're holding towels up on the mirror and going, why can it still see me when I've got a towel in front of my face?
What?
Yeah. Go on TikTok after this and search towel mirror or whatever. People are holding towels up and they can still see their faces. So it's like a, I don't know. So that's on the topic.
Is this not one of those stupid things where they set up their phone and their phone is at a certain angle? It's to do with the angle of the phone.
Yeah,
the
it probably is.
Device. The phone is recording the mirror and then recording it. So they put the towel up. They can't see their own face, but the camera from the phone can see their face because of the angle.
But,
and people are
they're trying to find this is what I mean. It's people are just obsessed with this whole thing about mirrors. They always have been, always will be, even though there is no explanation other than it's a mirror. And if you set your phone up on a certain angle, it's going to pick your face up.
Yeah.
So, but
it's a piece of glass. It's shiny, and you can see your face in it.
Yeah, but that's off topic. But I just thought I'd share that because it's currently being trending on TikTok. So
yeah, lovely. Go and look
about
it up.
mirrors, if it still is. But then they swapped over, didn't they? And then the other team went upstairs, and that's when they heard the loud wailing, the moan outside 3W7.
Yes. Wait, I'm sure I wrote this down.
Then they thought
the woman screams.
Yeah.
Yeah, the woman screams. God, I forgot about that. God, how long ago was it that I watched this?
Oh, no. That's afterwards. So there's a wail, there's a moan, and then there's a scream.
Yes.
So the scream is right at the end.
It is. It's while they're doing the EVP session. So
don't save the scream. Because the scream is when they're all sat and they all gather together because they're too scared in the basement, and then she's talking.
No. This is a different scream. It's one where, they're still split off into two teams.
Yeah.
Two of them are in the basement. Two of them are upstairs. And you do hear, because I've written here, woman scream. Both teams heard it. I have to say, I rewound it 4 times to try and decipher an animal call. A cat or a bird, etc. And I cannot think of an animal that would make that sound. And then I just put freaky.
Because it was like a sob, wasn't it? It was like a like
that.
And they both heard it from the two areas of the house they were in. Because then it picked up after that, the talking, like it sounded like there was about 6 people in the same room as them from their recording device.
Yeah. But do you recall? Do you have written down at all from the EVP session what they caught?
Which one?
The EVP session when they were outside the room, but when they heard the woman talking, when they were upstairs outside room 3007.
No, there was no verbal words. It was just a moan.
All I've got is I've got written here, and it's from the EVP session
Yeah.
from when they were still upstairs before they split off to go
Yeah.
and sleep alone. I've just got written EVP does have genuine vocal tone and several syllables, unlike some EVPs that just sound like someone scratches the recorder.
No, there was. I've just put talking.
Was that the one? I think that was the one where actually they couldn't decipher any words from it.
That was it.
And they were like, it sounds like words, but we can't decide what it's saying.
No.
But for me, genuinely, it does sound like a voice.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
not going to sit here and say, I'm not going to sit here and say that it sounds like someone scratching the microphone, as I would normally say. It's got an actual tone to the voice. So that EVP again was creepy.
It
not something that I could explain.
Like somewhere had broke for lunch all of a sudden, and everyone had come out of one door. You know, like that muttered sound. That's what it sounded like. Because even I was like, it was like, and I was thinking, it does sound like a group of people having a conversation about whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's when they went down to the hospital wing and had a look in there. The door moved, but they even said, "I think that's us."
Yeah.
So I mean,
that was.
again,
I mean, I didn't write that down.
But that to me was brilliant because I thought you're not showing everything that happens as a paranormal. You're saying that was us. That wasn't.
Yeah.
That was just the door swinging. That's why I wrote it down because I wanted to say that actually they're genuine, and these things are all Because then they went for a walk around the grounds, which they were talking about the unmarked graves, but nothing really specific happened on the grounds, which I was surprised at. I was waiting for something to happen at that point, maybe a noise or, just something on them, almost like a feeling, but there was nothing. They said there was nothing.
Yeah.
And then they split off into the scariest locations, which I was quite nervous about watching it.
Yeah, so this is again one of my favorite things about the show is that they all go and sleep alone. And this is quite an early episode, and as I've said to you, this is one of my favorite paranormal TV shows. I've seen quite a few episodes of Destination Fear and of Project Fear, which is their new venture on YouTube since the show was cancelled. Some things that you will have to look forward to in future episodes is that they challenge each other, and they really challenge each other. Like sometimes it's like you're going, but you're not taking any flashlights with you, or you're going and you're not going to have any walkie-talkies, or you're going, say like, oh, whoever's in the jail cell has to be handcuffed to the jail cell, so you can't even run away, like that kind of thing. So that is something that we have to look forward to, or that at least I have to look forward to you seeing, because I can't wait to just see your reaction to it, because I know you're going to freak out.
No way. That is, I mean, great television, but no thank you. That is, you've got to know your exit. And it's funny because that's one of the things they spoke about was, I mean, especially Chelsea, she said, I don't want to be in the basement because I need to know there's an exit.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that it does progress into that kind of, territory almost of you are trapped there and you've got to endure whatever happens. But so they split off into the basement, the hospital wing, second floor west wing, and the first floor, because they couldn't go up to the third floor because of just wasn't safe. General just maintenance of the building, it wasn't safe, which was a shame, but it did not disappoint either way, so it didn't really matter. So what were your thoughts on everything that happened in the basement?
Can I just clarify, this is the voices?
What is?
When you're talking about what happened in the basement.
Yeah, this is the voices, yeah.
So here's what I wrote, and I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about it. Goosebumps when Tanner started hearing a man's voice in the basement with him.
Yeah.
Then a bang, I'm freaking out. That's what I wrote down.
Yeah.
Then he shouts Alex, or no, he calls Alex on the walkie-talkie, and he's like, you need to get down here because I can hear voices, but the voices are so clear, like it could actually be people. Yeah. Like it could be humans.
Because then they split off because they genuinely thought somebody else was in the building, so they had to do a sweep.
So they sort of recongregated, and I don't think... No, Dakota didn't, because Dakota was in a completely different area of the thing. So Dakota stayed where he was. Chelsea stayed where she was, but Alex and Tanner came to Chelsea, because Chelsea wasn't too far away from Tanner. She could actually hear the voices too, and she thought it was Tanner.
Yeah.
And so she kind of stayed where she was, while Tanner and Alex went and checked the grounds for people. Now, I've written here, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I haven't actually said it on the podcast. I've just said it out loud in life. Humans are way scarier than any ghost or demon that you could describe to me, because humans have access to weapons, and, you know, humans have been known to end people's lives and create, you know, violence and stuff. So that's kind of when I really started freaking out, because I was like, oh my God, there are people in there with them. Yeah. It's an abandoned building.
Which could happen. People could be living in there.
Yeah, there could be squatters. There could be, you know, homeless people or like the unhoused where they're just looking for a place to stay. Oh, here's an abandoned building. It's a roof over my head. Or it could even be teenagers. It could be troublemakers. Yeah, like messing about, you know, and you hear, oh, there's some paranormal investigators here. Let's you know, let's give them a bit of a spook.
Because I was already like on edge. I thought, oh my God, because Chelsea was on her own, and then they left her, and then she called back on the walkie-talkie, come back. And I thought, but that's because she could hear the voices just still hovering around. And that's why she said, I think there's someone near me. But that is that moment when I think, because they'd all looked everywhere, they'd sort of gone, there is nobody here. These voices sound human, but there isn't a human physical person here. Yeah. It is a spirit, because they looked everywhere. There was nothing. There wasn't even a sign of entry. There was nothing. And
what I will say though is it was only Alex and Tanner that went looking. Two men circumnavigating the entire building, the huge building. I do think trespassers could have, you know, given them the slip. Maybe they've hidden behind one door in that room.
But the voices didn't stop. They stayed around them, because Chelsea said it sounds like somebody's behind me, and there was nobody there. And if someone had been that close, you'd have heard them running away. You know, you hear footsteps, but there was voices, but no footsteps. And that to me was where I went, nah, that's something there. Because obviously on the device, he picked up someone's, I think he said Paul. And then the second time, he thought he said hallway, but I thought he said sorry. That's what I heard. I heard sorry.
I can't remember what I heard. I remember the Paul one, because that was when Tanner was using the Ovulus. Yeah. Now, the Ovulus, for people who don't know, is a device which has a random word database in it, and ghosts are said to be able to manipulate this device to throw out words, and it did throw out the word Paul. I can't remember if was Paul, was that a name specific to the building?
No. He just said his name was Paul. He just said Paul. It was just random.
Oh, so it's like he was asking what's your name, and it said Paul.
Then he was having a conversation with him, and then at that moment, that's when everything went from 0 to 100, because
in like 2 seconds.
Yes, that was it. He was like, "Oh my God, that's it." He stormed off. He's quite a calm guy, and he said it takes a lot for me to get like that, and that was it. He was like, "I'm not leaving Chelsea on her own," because he said that he thought someone was mocking him and laughing. Yes. Because at that moment, there was so much that went on. It was almost like this spirit, and they actually even said this is demonic, because it went from this talking to the voice was following them, and then it started to sing, which sound it was and that was.
See, this was the thing that I did find weird, right? Is that So Tanner heard the voices originally, the male voice. He and Alex then went to go and search the grounds. They came back, checked on Chelsea. She was fine. I'm happy to stay here. Don't worry. After that, they all went back to their respective places again. And immediately after getting back, Tanner... I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about this.
I have.
I feel so... And as well, because I'm home alone.
On edge.
And I'm looking to my hallway here now on my right, which is just dark. I don't know why I'm sat in a dark room with just a ring light on me. I'm not even filming this. I could have the full light on. I don't know why. It's not like I'm filming this for social media.
You're trying to,
Oh well, I'm doing what I'm doing. There we go. So he went back to his little cot, his bed that was set up. And he's about to like settle down again. He starts hearing this voice, and that's when he hears it, and he loses his mind.
Yeah,
he like shouts, and let me tell you, as someone who's watched a lot of the show, Tanner never does that. That's the only time I've ever seen him get really angry at something like that. And then again, it's like it's singing. The thing that I found taunting them, the thing that I found most weird about that, because always in the back of my mind for that whole episode was, it's people.
Yeah.
For me as a skeptic, it's people. People have got in and people are mocking them. What I found weird about that is the first time he heard them, before they went and searched the grounds, is Tanner heard them and Chelsea heard them because she was in another part of the basement.
Yeah.
The second time, Tanner did not hear that. Tanner heard them. Chelsea did not. But Chelsea heard Tanner shouting.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Dude, what's going on?"
It was almost as if the demonic presence are very good at choosing the human that they can feel like they can taunt, and because he was the one responding to them, they clearly thought, right, so they've latched onto him. I think this is my view. People can have different views, but I think they latched onto him because I think they thought that he was the hardest nut to crack, almost, with talking, and he was the one that was actually giving them the response because he was trying to have a conversation with this entity, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But at that moment, as soon as he lost it, so did the spirits, because that's when everything, there was that awful spine tingling scream that I just felt.
Oh my
horrible.
God.
Oh, that was horrible.
Let's just talk about that for a second.
Jesus Christ.
Because so everyone had recongregated. Everyone was together, and they were like, "We're gonna have to end this investigation."
Yeah.
Because even Tanner himself was saying, "We're gonna have to end the investigation because I think there are people in here.
Yeah.
I think there are humans, and I think our lives are at risk.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get out." And then, right, skeptic talking here. I nearly cried.
Yeah.
And again, I was home alone, and
It was scary.
I lost my mind.
The scream sounded like pain. Like, it sounded like the worst thing that could happen to somebody was happening. And that's when they went, this sounds demonic. Like, it doesn't sound human.
It was so close.
Yes.
It wasn't distant. It was like it was behind the camera.
Well, they said it was like the voice was chasing them at the end. The voice was chasing them, and they couldn't get away, which is why they went into where they kept all their equipment, didn't they, in the end, and just shut the door. Because they knew at that point they were in danger, either from something paranormal or something real. But what got me was the next section, where they'd left the camera inside and there was native chanting.
Yes.
Wow. Honestly, nightmares. This is the thing that nightmares are made of, ladies and gentlemen. Honestly. No way on earth would I go near that building.
Oh, really?
No, I wouldn't. Because I think what they were trying to say at the end of that episode was that place is dangerous. I don't think they'd go back there. I really don't.
I do think they're planning on going back. That's what this Instagram post was about the other day. I think their plan is to make a beeline back for it. And
but do you think they're going, like, do you think it's taken a lot of persuading, because it's been years since they've been as well, and they've had to probably get over what they experienced there?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, maybe now they've done more of this and they're more experienced, and now they thought, right, we've got better equipment, let's go. If I just genuinely felt like they were in danger. I didn't think they were safe.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like they were safe.
I agree with you. I do think they were in danger, but I don't know if I was more erring on the side of they might get hurt by some people.
I
rather
don't
than
think there was anyone
some
else.
spirits.
I don't think there was anyone in that building.
I'm really on the fence with that whole saga because the biggest majority of my brain wants to believe that there were other people in there.
Yeah.
As a skeptic, but there is just that tiny little thing in the back of my mind that's like, well, then why did Tanner hear the singing but Chelsea didn't?
Yeah.
Unless the people in the building had moved from between Tanner and Chelsea and managed to get themselves onto another side of the basement where they were closer to Tanner but away from Chelsea.
But I think even if someone had moved down that basement, the echo will have been that strong you'd have heard it.
Potentially.
Because it's such a big open space. It's like, for example, if I was at one end of a street and you were way down the other bit, if I was whistling, you'd hear me.
Yeah.
And as well, that building is empty, so there's nothing for the sound to latch onto. There's no, apart from their beds that they had in them bits, there's no sofas, there's nothing which absorbs sound. There's nothing that can absorb sound. So that's why I don't believe there were people in there. I think it genuinely is just an incredibly active building that's had so much happen. Because you think before, way ago, when the natives were having wars and there's lots of unmarked graves, and they said up to 100. Now, if you've got 100 spirits buried, or if from the sound of the chanting, taking up residence in that house, then it was just like overrun with activity. Like, if they'd have taken what are they called, the little things that beep?
Oh, like an EMF reader.
Yeah, I reckon that would have gone mad. Which I hope next time they take with them, because it'll be good to see the level of activity in that building.
Yeah. EMF readers are quite a popular device in most paranormal shows. In fact, I think I've made a note on one in the next episode that we're going to be reviewing.
Yes, they used
so we can talk about that then. I just going back. I wanted you to say your piece on the chants and the sort of Native American chanting coming from the basement. It did sound creepy, but I'll be honest with you, I can't exactly remember what it sounded like. I'm gonna have to rewatch it
like monotone voices. Have you ever seen Hot Fuzz?
Yes.
When they're all around the table going Anima, Animatis. It sounded like that.
Like Latin
chant,
like Latin chanting, but obviously it would have been like a Native American language.
It was that tone, and it was like to a certain beat each time. So
yeah, I just didn't know if maybe again the skeptic's hat has got to go on because it's my literal purpose on this podcast is to try and pick apart everything that we can. That was a creepy sounding thing. But what I did say, what I've written down, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know if like I said, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it to see what I actually meant by what I wrote. The unexplained chants in the basement didn't sound like actual words to me. It could have literally been the building vibrating.
I suppose.
I don't know how close the building is to like a highway where like lorries and trucks might be driving past, or a railway.
But there was none of that sound while they were in there, though.
Not necessarily, but I live sort of quarter of a mile away from a train station, and the trains come through, and you don't hear the trains. Yeah. Oh, I don't from home, but I do feel my house. On the odd occasion, when it's a big freight, big freight
rattle.
train, as that comes through the station, you can feel it in the house, and the house does vibrate. Could it have been something like that? Again, I don't know how close the building is to like a main road or a or like a railway or whatever. But just as a skeptic, I have to pick everything apart. Again, as always, I will admit it sounded creepy, but I have to put that little rug down.
Yeah. But with how the episode went, you can fully imagine that it was a spirit. You know what I mean? That there was enough evidence in that program to say, right, that's not the strangest thing that's happened, because it was absolutely mad. It was just crazy. But I did enjoy that. I didn't, because it was a short episode as well, and they weren't trying to drag things out to keep you in. It just was like, whoa, do you know what I mean? And they obviously, they hadn't planned any of that.
Yeah.
Apart from splitting off, but they hadn't planned any part of that episode.
No, it is literally just, let's go to this haunted place, let's have a look around, see what happens, and then we'll do the investigation kind of thing. Yeah. So that's the sort of general discussion done. And I cannot genuinely now cannot get rid of these goosebumps. Just talking about that scream again. That was
piercing. It was piercing.
Yeah. Can I ask you, what did you think was the worst piece of evidence in the show?
This is hard, because the worst piece of evidence. I actually, today, I'm struggling to pinpoint the worst piece of evidence, because apart from the mirror, I'm going to go with the mirror, because that to me wasn't any piece of evidence whatsoever.
To be fair, I wouldn't suggest that the mirror is a piece of evidence. It's just it was just a comment that he made, and then something that I latched onto.
But I can't. There was nothing, because they were clever in the way they did the program, that they didn't put anything in that was crap evidence. Do you know what I mean? Everything that they brought to the table was justifiable.
Yep, I totally agree.
So I don't know. I'm gonna just say that on this occasion, this time.
Okay, well, for me, I don't know if you're going to believe this, but what I've written down is nothing.
Okay, I can believe it.
And I don't for me personally, I don't think anything was faked. I think everything was legit, whether it was a human disruption or a demonic disruption, whichever side of the fence you're on that. Everything was legit. Everything that they... My belly just made a big noise.
I didn't hear it, so...
It just went... Everything was legit. Everything that they caught, or everything that was a surprise to us, was a surprise to them. So I can't sit here and say that there was anything that was a quote unquote worst excuse for a piece of evidence. Everything was a legitimate piece of evidence, and everything was as surprising to them as it was to us, and you could clearly see that.
Yep.
So yeah, I've got nothing for that.
There you go.
What do you think is the most convincing piece of evidence?
The most? See, I've wrote down in my book all of it, because honestly. Because
you know what I was going to say? I was going to say you're not allowed to do that. You could only land on one.
But with this episode, I couldn't, because I was like the scream, and I was like, oh no, the talking. Then I was like, oh no, the crash. And I was like, I mean, if I'm going to pinpoint it, I'm going to say the talk, all the audio, verbal, pick that, but all of it. I was convinced by all of it. I can't pinpoint the most convincing piece, because if anything, the episode just did this, and it all sort of built up to what happened towards the end. So yeah, I think all the bits of evidence helped to create a whole convincing episode. Yeah. Because without some bits, they didn't connect to other bits. Because it, that's what I'm going with. The whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing.
And I know it's probably not allowed, but I will.
Whatever, it's our podcast. We can do what we want. So for me, I wrote down the EVP and the obvious response. Yeah. The EVP, again, as a skeptic, I would normally be able to pinpoint one way or another that a sound could be made through an EVP. Because normally what you hear from EVPs are like...
Yeah.
Like that kind of like crackly... and it's like, oh, well, that could have been made by static in the air might have disrupted the device and created this awful crackling distortion through the device. Someone could have rubbed their finger over the microphone. I know that's an old one, that I come back to quite a lot, but that's how a lot of EVPs sound on a lot of these TV programs. But with this one, as I've said, it has genuine vocal tone. There are multiple syllables. Cannot tell what it's saying, but it's weird and something that I can't explain. And the Ovulus, he asked the spirit what its name was, and it came back with a name. Coincidences do happen. That could be a coincidence, but in a TV show such as this, it makes for good evidence if something like that does happen. If you ask for a name and it gives you a name, great. If you ask it to give you a color and it says purple, that's also good evidence. He could have been sat there for ages asking different questions. How old are you? And it says banana, and it's like, oh well, that's not. No. We won't put that in the program, kind of thing. But I still stand by what I say. The EVP and the Ovulus are probably the most convincing bits for me. I feel like we're both going to give the same answer for this. What's the scariest moment in the show?
The scream.
The scream.
The scream. Hands 100% down.
100% the scream.
That was horrible. That was. I thought it was over. And then I was like, oh.
Legit. I was on wind down. And I was ready to.
It was
for the end credits.
It was like when you watch a horror film and you think it's over. And you go, oh, or there's a section where everybody's having dinner and then all of a sudden this demon appears. It was like you just weren't prepared for it. There was no build. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. Like, have you ever seen the film Drag Me to Hell?
Yeah, I have seen the film.
It's concluded, everything's done, it's a happy ending, and then, boom, out of nowhere, she ends up on the train track and dragged through the rails.
But
and she's gone to hell.
They're the best horror films that do that. But, because I am a horror film lover. I am a horror film lover, and we know that. But
here's an idea, because I'm not the biggest fan of horror films, or at least I haven't watched that many horror films. But you're a big fan. How about putting this out there on the podcast now? We make a Patreon account. We could review horror films.
We could because I'll be honest. The ones that would be the best to review are the ones that are based on real life events,
like The Conjuring,
stuff, and
Enfield Haunting.
When the lights go out, because I've never seen that. And
I've never seen that, but I don't think
all the Conjuring films are based off.
I think it's like a B movie, isn't it?
Oh no, it was done by the BBC.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, when the lights go out was a BBC, because the BBC also did the Enfield Haunting.
Oh,
so there's two films with that. This is total off topic now. There's The Conjuring, and then there is actually a series that the BBC did, which was terrifying, by the way, called The Enfield Haunting, which was better than The Conjuring, because The Conjuring got a bit like The Nun got brought into it, Valak, whereas that was never a thing, but that was them dramatising it. But yeah. So that's
anyway. So future plans. Should have probably left this to a meeting between the two of us off camera.
You can cut this out.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, listeners, potentially you might be hearing us through Patreon one day if you fancy it.
Maybe.
Finally, I have to ask you, I know what your answer is going to be, based only on the evidence in this episode, do you think Sweet Springs Sanatorium is haunted?
Yes.
Why on earth would you say that?
Why on earth? Because I shat my pants watching the episode. I'll be honest.
No, obviously, I'm being facetious. It was creepy.
And also, I just had tingles the whole time, like down my back. I was cold. I was cold the whole time I was watching it. And I was like, ooh, yeah.
My answer for this, it's not going to surprise you to know that I wrote no in my notebook, and then I wrote afterwards, it's just easy access to trespassers.
Yeah, but that's because you had one thing.
After our little discussion and talking back and two, about different things and the way things happened, and I forgot certain things happened that you reminded me of. And it's two things, right? It's the fact that Tanner heard the voices first time along with Chelsea, and then the second time she didn't hear them. That I can't get over.
No.
The scream. Not only was it one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard in my life, it was also so close to the team that I feel like if it was a trespasser,
you'd have
they
seen
would have
them.
been immediately caught by the team.
Yeah.
And also the fact that, looking back, I've written, for worst excuse for a piece of evidence, I've written nothing. So I can't, in all good conscience, stand here and say that building is not paranormal based on the evidence provided in this TV program. That is not to say that I do now believe in ghosts.
No.
I'm saying, with what was presented in front of me from this TV program, assuming everything is legit and above board and nothing is faked, is Sweet Springs haunted? I cannot believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. There isn't anything you can argue with, though, in it at all. I mean, there probably is. You could probably argue with yourself till you're blue in the face. But
yeah. And then I'll probably watch an episode of Ghost Adventures when they go there and I'll be like, no, it's absolutely fucking bullshit.
Well, exactly. I mean, and I understand that. But with this, no. I think we'd end up in an actual argument if you tried to argue with me that this place wasn't at least slightly haunted. Because I'd have been like, what have you been watching?
I think it would be a disservice to the podcast for me to turn around and say none of the evidence was bad. I was scared shitless. I can't explain X, Y, and Z, but I'm coming down on a no.
Yeah.
I think people would be genuinely upset by that.
The one I want to look for, and I don't know who has covered it, and I'm going to say this on the podcast now, because I don't even believe it. I want us to review the Enfield haunting, because I don't believe it happened. And this is a believer.
I will agree with you on that.
I want to watch a programme that's gone to the house, that's gone and done a paranormal hunt, and I want to review it, because that would be a really good one, because I don't believe it. And I'm already, as a believer, I'm a skeptic, which is bizarre. We've swapped places. That's where I'd be for that one. So that's why. We haven't
necessarily swapped places. I'm with you on the Enfield haunting.
Well, no, I'm not saying you believe it, but...
Let's not get fully into it right now, but one thing about the Enfield haunting is that one of the girls, at least, admitted to faking at least 50% of those things that happened. And for me, the millisecond that anyone admits to faking anything makes it not real.
Yeah. I mean,
whole thing
I'm
out.
not going to talk about it now, because I have got a million and one opinions, but yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
definitely.
So let's open it up to the listeners. Does anyone know of an episode of a TV program or a documentary series where the Enfield haunting
has been covered?
The topic of conversation? Yeah. Let us know, paranormaltvpod@gmail.com, or let us know on the socials, Instagram or TikTok. That's ParaTVPod. If you've got any other TV shows that you're desperate for us to cover, then let us know, paranormaltvpod@gmail.com. Finally, unless there's anything else for Chloe to say.
No, apart from...
Wait, I've not done the shout-outs yet.
Right.
Don't do the final bit yet. I can't wait to hear this, though.
It's just silly.
I can't wait. Hold on. So I've got some shout outs to do. I went on TikTok and I shared a video. It was about one of our favourite humans on the planet. I know you love him, Chloe.
Yeah.
It was Zach Bagans.
Oh, yeah.
We love Zachy boy.
Zach boy.
And I asked for people to name him. I wanted wrong answers only.
Yeah.
And again, let me say...
I did have a read through these, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Oh, have you got some?
No.
Oh. You read through them, but you didn't tell me.
No, I read through them, looked at them, didn't write any of them down. So I'm so sorry, listeners, but I did.
Okay.
But I was quite impressed.
That's fine.
So,
It's all right. I've got five, like I did last time. And yeah, I think this is a fun thing that we can maybe keep going as like
I like it.
a thing to get people engaged as well. So I asked for people to give me the most random, most weird and wonderful answers.
Yeah.
And the ones that sort of jumped out to me would be read out on the podcast. So thank you, Paranormal Penny Pinchers, who suggested that this man's name is Sauron the Dark Dentist, servant of Morgoth, the evil ice cream creator of Marmite and Nutella flavour.
It's just bizarre.
As far as weird goes, I think top of the pile, weird and wonderful. So thank you to them. Thank you to Monique, who commented Nick Groff.
Nick
Groff. The reason I've chosen this is because Nick Groff is the presenter of Paranormal Lockdown. He also was one of the original members of the Ghost Adventures team until he had a massive fallout with Zach Bagans. So the fact that I was like, who is this guy? Picture of Zach Bagans, and she's like, that's Nick Groff, that is. I thought was wonderfully ironic. And also, a point that I wanted to make on the last episode but completely forgot, I must have just lost it in my notes, was the episode of Paranormal Lockdown where they go to 30 East Drive. I hated so much that I actually said, I prefer Zach Bagans now to Nick Groff, because even though they are both in the same vein as each other, they are both the same person, as in they are over the top, they act up for the camera. Zach Bagans is at least funny.
Yeah, he does.
And we can at least have a laugh when we watch him on our screens.
Whereas
Nick Groff was just
dramatic.
frustrating. He was frustrating to watch. No ill will or anything to Nick Groff. He's not my cup of tea. Shout out to Fur Babies, who just wrote My Future Husband.
Fair play.
There are lots of people out there who love Zach Bagans, and when I say love him, I mean
love.
They are in love with him, and each to their own. And Fur Babies, if for whatever reason Zach Bagans ever listens to this episode, they'll know that you have him in sight for a future wedding potentially. This one. Wow, I can't even pronounce the name of this person. Mephistopheles. So the name of this person is Mephistopheles.baby on TikTok. Thank you for commenting. Dale Winton. Dale Winton, obviously the late TV presenter from the UK who presented Supermarket Sweep and other, legendary TV programs. I just thought that was nice and random. And then finally, another random one from DJ Ken. Your shout out goes to you because you said Alan Carr.
Alan Carr. Now that is a cracking one. I like that one.
If people are listening to this going, these are terrible, just know that I did this. I chose these within 30 seconds of each other on my lunch break at work. So, yeah. They're all the shout outs for this week. Chloe, we got two yeses this week on whether we think somewhere's haunted or not. I never ever thought that would be a possibility, and yet here we are. How do you feel about that?
I'm pretty impressed, really.
I can't wait to get 2 no's.
Well,
I don't know if that's going to happen.
I mean,
we'll have to cover the Enfield haunting.
I mean, yeah. But we've got 2 yeses. I think this is going to be good because some weeks there will be 2 yeses. Some weeks there might be 2 no's.
I think most weeks it's going to be a mixed bag.
Yes and no. I do think that. I don't think there'll ever be a week where you say yes and I say no. But...
Can you imagine if it does, though?
Well, I'm waiting for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for listening.
Yes.
You know where to find us on socials. You know how to get in touch with us on email. let us know what you want to hear from us in future. And to take us out, we have Chloe.
All I want to
for
say is good night, and remember, the most useless room to a ghost is the living room. Thank you. Good night.